In the early 1990s, Centerville City Council had the vision to develop a new community property.
A place where folks can come together for golf, special occasions, a night out, even a family get-together.
And that vision became a reality in 1995 when the golf club at Yankee Trace opened its doors to the public. This is a special edition of Centerville Reports as we celebrate Yankee Trace's 10th anniversary. I'm Maureen Russell Hodson.
And I'm Officer Matt Dunn. We're going to tell you about some of the past events held here at Yankee Trace, also introduce you to some of the key people involved in its development, and let you know a little bit about the future here at the golf course. So stay tuned for this special edition of Centerville Reports.
If you build it, they will come, and they have been coming to golf, dine, socialize, and live. Opened in 1995, the City of Centerville Municipal Golf Course has welcomed thousands of guests to its beautiful clubhouse, lush greens, and friendly housing developments.
Shirley Heinz, who was mayor when the idea for a golf project came to fruition in the early 1990s, said that City Council had to decide quickly whether to pursue the project.
There was very little development in the southern part of Washington Township at the time. However, there were snatches of land being taken, like for 25 or 50 acres for a housing development. So therefore, we needed uninterrupted land to be acquired as quickly as possible. So that set everything in motion. And we did figure out that it had to be annexed to the city of Centerville for all of this, to be logically improved upon, and also for the city to go forward with it. So all of that is pretty much history too, as far as the annexation and the court issues involved with that, but let's put that aside. The important thing that we are dealing with is, yes, we have a wonderful recreational complex in the Centerville, Washington Township area that was not duplicated any other place in the city or the township. So I felt, and the council did too, that it was a win-win situation. So we decided to go forward with it.
Former Mayor Sally Beals, a council member in 1990, says there was a real need to take Centerville to the next level.
We had no place to congregate. There was no Benham's Grove, there was no, Stubbs Park was just a rough, overgrown area, and there was no golf course. And so we were at the stage in the development of the city where we needed places for people to congregate, to enjoy each other's company, to do, those kinds of things. And so Yankee Trace and all three of those really came about the same time.
City Manager Greg Horn was hired after the decision to pursue the golf course. He jumped right into the planning process.
City Manager Darrell Kenning, who had been with the city for approximately 17 years, decided around January of '92 that he was going to retire. City Council began looking for a new city manager in April of '92, and I had the good fortune of being chosen and started in late June of '92. It really worked out well because they were looking for a manager that was willing to make the commitment to stay here for several years, to work with the team that had been assembled, and to see the Yankee Trace project through to fruition.
But how do you develop over 500 acres of farmland into a top-notch golfing community? Very carefully.
Council began thinking about a golf course project in late 1989. In spring of 1990, they engaged the services of a company called Golf Resources, Inc. to do a feasibility study about the possibility of building a golf course in Centerville. Later in 1990, they contacted local real estate agent Vic Green and had Mr. Green begin to put together amassing the land parcels that they would need for the project. In late 1990 and early 1991, the city interviewed several golf course architects. And in spring of '91, they chose Gene Bates Golf Course Design out of West Palm Beach, Florida, to be the master architect for the entire project.
Bates says that this project is much more than designing a championship-level golf course.
Yankee Trace is a little larger project than just a golf course, as everyone here knows. It's actually a residential community with a municipally owned golf course in the center of the community. Now that happened by design, and I was selected with the team that I brought to the table as not only the golf course architect, but the master planner of the community. So we were given the template of here's 500 and some acres of property, and the city has the goal of developing a community. We like a very fine 18-hole golf course. We like to have a wonderful clubhouse that we can hold city functions. We can do all the normal golf things out of the clubhouse. And we really want to make this a statement for our city of Centerville.
Gene Bates was then charged to put together his professional team. He hired Barge, Wagner, Sumner & Cannon, a local engineering firm, to work with him and provide civil engineering services. And he hired a land planning company out of Denver, Colorado called David Jensen and Associates. And Jensen and Associates were very well known throughout the country for doing some very unique golf course and community lifestyle type projects.
The clubhouse was a cornerstone in the project's success.
These fields were a combination of soybean fields and corn fields. And they weren't flat in the sense that they were level. They were flat in the sense that we had topography that fell from the east side of the property to the west side. So it was just one long, constant slope of boring ground. Great for farming, but not so great for developing a golf course. So the initial process was, how do we integrate housing, community, and golf course? And the very first step was we had to find a center point that could be the hub of our wheel, and then the golf course and the residential would be the spokes, and the hub would be the clubhouse, and then everything radiated from the clubhouse.
According to city planner Steve Feverston, the evolution of a master plan made it all come together.
Yankee Trace is, in terms of its overall planning and master planning, is pretty well complete. There's a few areas that have yet to be refined as part of the development goes, but in overall planning, that part's nearly complete. Yankee Trace, in terms of housing, is probably 85% complete. So we're right now building towards the end of Yankee Trace as the development. And I guess what lies in store for the future of Yankee Trace, it's a strong neighborhood, very active homeowners within their homeowners association, very active within the community itself, very active at the golf course. Yankee Trace will remain a very, very strong, vibrant part of Centerville for a very long time.
Developing a community on this scale would prove to be a huge undertaking. Centerville City Council selected Great Traditions as the developer of the residential area. Tom Hume says his company was ready for the challenge.
Well, it was truly a team effort. First of all, the vision and the credit for so much of this really does go to the City of Centerville and Centerville City Council. For the community and the community leaders to have the vision that they had to create this community and to go out on a limb to buy the land and to have the vision to create something unique like this for the City of Centerville was very unique. So absolutely, without question, this should be a celebration of the vision that the city leaders had for the community back then. We were chosen to be the implementers of that vision when it came to the home side. And we worked very carefully with the city to create and make sure that we developed what they were looking for, and also something that would meet the needs of the marketplace in terms of the people in this area, to create the types of homes and the type of community that people would be looking for. So it was a collaborative effort, but we knew that we wanted to create what we call a lifestyle-oriented, very unique and special community. And our goal was to create a community that really was going to be the nicest and most livable, if not the best community ever developed in the greater Dayton area.
Clubhouse architect Bryan Choi says a main objective was to create a community gathering place.
Involvement in this project is like a dream come true. Like as a golfer and also Centerville city residents. I have 4 children grown up in Centerville school system. And city council interviewed several architects. And when they selected us, we had a great responsibility for this best opportunity for this project. So the first thing what we thought was Centerville City historical character in downtown, heritage of stone building. And when we bring this idea to building, city council members asked us, this is not only golfers building, but also the community gathering place. So we had to have convention facilities and banquet facilities all together working. And also city manager Greg Horn wanted to have this building image well elevated, how people will be welcomed coming from Yankee Street to this building. So all those things, just a wonderful opportunity we started with this project.
The combined elements of economics, aesthetics, and function made for a successful project.
Aesthetically successful, functionally successful, and also economically successful. So that's the three aspects of challenge architect phase. And we made this beautiful building with Centerville traditional stone applied to building image, and a nice Sistine Chapel ceiling space in the welcoming lobby at the foyer. And golfers function, pro shop is scheduling golfers, and the parking coming in the pro shop and then taking tee off and then making round and coming back, and the driving range practice. All the control is a function aspect. We made it good. So we made it successful in aesthetic and the function. Now economically how we can make this success. And the location was beautiful location, one of the most popular in the entire metropolitan area. So people want to live in this golf course area, and this successful golf course in right location, right time in Centerville history made this economically successful project too.
Working on the Yankee Trace project was both challenging and satisfying.
Sitting back and looking at that project, it makes a good memory working with city mayor, city council members, city manager, and the golf course architects, and working with me other architects and consultants all put together. And you know, while you are working, there were challenges, problems, solutions, you know, but we all put together and made best result. And when we look at all this economically successful and aesthetically, functionally successful project, it is a wonderful feeling architect can have.
There were a few challenges along the way for Gene Bates. However, in the end, things were just fine.
Number one, we really didn't have great water resources for irrigation. So that was an engineering process that we had to go through to make sure that we had proper water quantities for irrigation needs for the golf course. And through the development of a couple deep wells and a storage facility for the irrigation water, we were able to overcome that in the early stages of the project. During the construction of the golf course, we had a contractor that went bankrupt. It wasn't our project that bankrupted the contractor. It was some other dilemmas and problems that he had in Kentucky, but that always throws a monkey wrench into the whole works. But fortunately, through the wisdom of Greg Horn and the way that he set up the contract between the city and the contractor, we had a bonding company that stepped in and hardly allowed any interruption of the flow of work, carried on, and saw that the golf course was built and paid for.
Designer Bates says the course was made for players of all levels.
Now, where I think we achieved that goal was the fact that here we are, a municipally owned golf course that plays 36,000 rounds of golf a year, maybe a little more, a little less, but I think that's about an average. It's well received by all the players, the juniors, the ladies, the guys, the older gentlemen, and the low handicap players. But I think the crowning achievement in that success of being able to set it up for all levels of players was the fact that this golf course for 4 years, was it 4 or 5 years, hosted the tour. It was Nike and then nationwide Dayton Open event. And that's an honor for any golf course, and it's especially an honor for Yankee Trace because it is owned by the city.
There are 3 major areas to the golf club at Yankee Trace: the pro shop, the restaurant and banquet facilities, and the maintenance area.
Yankee Trace has been fortunate to have good employees in all of those areas.
And you know, our golf course superintendent, John Miller, has been here since day one, or pretty close to it.
Well, in the beginning, as Yankee Trace was coming online, I had actually had some grow-in and construction experience in the golf industry. And so Yankee Trace really appealed to me. I saw the plans, knew what it was going to be like, and wanted to be able to have a hand in creating it. When I first came on board, I was working mainly with the construction company. At that time was Midwest Golf. We were in the process of building the remaining holes. Our original contractor was not performing well, so Midwest Golf came in, took over for them, and finished the construction project. I oversaw the construction of the golf course and eventually oversaw the construction as well of the clubhouse.
John has been instrumental in keeping the course in top condition, even during professional tournaments.
You get the chance to make your golf course as good as you possibly can, to show it off to the world, to show it off to the best players in the world, to show it off to golfers and non-golfers who have maybe never been to Yankee Trace before. That was probably the highlight. That first year, once that tournament was under our belt, that Sunday evening, I just remember that we felt so good, and we came to work Monday morning and we just kind of looked at each other like, you know, this golf course is so good right now, why are we even here? And so it was a lot of fun. That was probably one of the highlights right there. When Yankee Trace was designed, it was designed to be a golf course that anyone could play. When we put it together, we built it, constructed it, grew it in, it was still that. It was something that any golfer could play. So now we have to prove it. Well, we did, because we've actually held a PGA Tour event here, but we've also had a number of golfers who have actually started their golfing careers here as well. So we've gone from one end of the spectrum to the other, which just goes to show that Yankee Trace can accommodate any level of golfer.
He relies on an outstanding staff of employees and volunteers to help keep up with course maintenance.
I have a full-time staff of 3, myself, my assistant Terry Taylor, and my mechanic Justin Crone. And obviously Justin's title's mechanic. His main responsibility is taking care of the equipment. Terry's my assistant. We basically run the crew day to day. Since I am more involved with some of the business part of the golf course, Terry a lot of times will oversee the crew for a biggest part of the day. Terry and I meet every morning to discuss what we want to do with the golf course, any special projects we have going on, and we give the crew their assignment. And from that point, it's basically monitoring the crew to make sure they're doing what they need to do. We get around the golf course to make sure that we're not seeing any surprises out there.
But you know what? With the fact that we have John Miller as our golf course superintendent, and I say our, I hope that I still am embraced by the city, but we have John Miller as our golf course superintendent, and he's the caretaker of the grounds. He's the guy that he's either going to make it look wonderful and make it mature in a proper manner, or he's the guy that could neglect it and have it go the other way, but not John. He's a true professional, and so with his tender loving care, and then with the city council's blessing and Greg Horn directing the whole process, this golf course has matured beautifully.
Another longtime employee is Steve Shaw, food service director. He was in the enviable position of designing the banquet facilities and kitchen.
As far as involvement here, I started when this building, there was a couple cinder block walls standing, the basement was in place. I got involved into the design of the kitchen, the actual function of that banquet room, and the concept of what this restaurant and banquet facility would become.
Steve says the number of special events grows each year, along with the regular favorites.
We do a lot of different events here, do a lot of banquet functions. We also do a Jazz in the Green, which is between Memorial Day and Labor Day. We also do a patio cookout here, which is also again between Memorial Day and Labor Day. We also do a fish fry. We do that in the late fall and also before Easter every Friday night, which is very successful. And we also do a nice Sunday brunch, which does quite a bit of business. A lot of people really enjoy it. We have a lot of large parties that seem to be booking lately, so it does very well.
For 5 years, the golf club at Yankee Trace served as home to the PGA Tour sanctioned event, the Dayton Open.
Yankee Trace welcomed thousands of spectators for fun, special events, and terrific golf. And nearly $400,000 was collected for local charities.
Yankee Trace has been fortunate over the years to host 5 PGA Tour sanctioned events. In 1999, it all began with the Nike Dayton Open, and then we had 3 years of the Buy.com Tour being held here. And then most recently, we were home for the nationwide tour Dayton Open.
The pro staff started back in 1994 with the hiring of PGA professional Bryan Hughes. Bryan helped get the course off the ground.
The golf pros that have been here, I've been very fortunate to work with 3 wonderful guys. Bryan Hughes was our first golf professional. Bryan came to us from the TPC at Avenel. He was an assistant there and actually down in Louisville. at a golf course. So Bryan was somewhat familiar with the area. It was exciting for Bryan. He came in, starting up the business brand new. Bryan was here for 5 years, did a wonderful job. He was great to work with. And then he had some opportunities arise for him. And he took those, and which we were all sad to see Bryan go.
Following Bryan Hughes was PGA professional Pat Bailey. Pat kept the ball rolling and served as golf pro for 5 years.
Pat came to us from Greenhurst, which is over in Indiana, not too far away. Pat was here for 5 years as well, did a wonderful job. Some opportunities arose for Pat, so lo and behold, he left us as well.
And now, Matt, taking Yankee Trace into its second decade is PGA professional Steve Marino. Steve says Yankee Trace is a golfer's delight.
So it's kind of a mini little vacation for people. They work all week, and it's nice to have a place to come either after work or on the weekend to kind of come and just kind of let your hair down and have some fun away from work or away from the house chores and that type of thing. So that's the way that we approach it. We want you to have fun. We want to produce a nice environment for you, and it just kind of get you away from all the grind of the week. And that's kind of what we try to accomplish day in and day out. The property is second to none. Our staff is second to none. We focus on customer service. We have a great food and beverage operation. The golf course is fun to play. You can walk it, you can ride it. So across the board, Yankee Trace, in my opinion, is the #1 golf course in the area.
The staff of volunteers enjoys giving their time to this great facility.
We have a wonderful volunteer base here. Our volunteer program actually started when the golf course started. We were looking for people to kind of help us with the golf course maintenance, filling divots, repairing ball marks, and it's grown since that. We now have a crew that takes care of the front nine, a crew that takes care of the back nine, and a crew that takes care of the vintage nine. The volunteers are just wonderful. We could not replace them.
Yankee Trace has been recognized by the PGA for its outstanding youth instructional programs.
Today we had a day on the golf course. I was able to be with a group of 8 boys and girls, all different ages. We had a little contest going, and I enjoyed it, I think, as much as they did, just supervising and helping them out. And actually our team came in first place today, so I was very proud of them.
I've been playing golf for about 5 years now, and my dad really got me into it because he'd always play golf with his dad. And now he's really old and he can't really go out on the golf course anymore. So he likes to play with me. I come to this camp every year. It's just a lot of fun. But now I've really progressed a lot because the teachers here are really good instructors. They really get into detail with you and give you a lot of personal attention and explain what you're doing wrong and how you can fix it.
This 27-hole golf course has racked up quite a few accolades,
including being ranked by Golf Digest as a top 10 municipal golf course.
And by Golf Magazine as one of the top 50 courses with greens fees under $50.
Golf Club at Yankee Trace has been very fortunate over the years to have had a quality staff that have helped us achieve much recognition. We've been continually recognized by our peers and by many of the major golf magazines. The Golf Digest, which is probably the most popular golf magazine in our country, consistently ranks Yankee Trace as 4.5 stars on its best places to play list. Golf Digest also nominated Yankee Trace when it opened as the best new municipal facility. Golf Magazine has recognized Yankee Trace as one of the top 50 courses in the country that can be played for under $50. While the national recognition is certainly nice, what's more important is the local support we receive from the golfers. They continue to play Yankee Trace, they love our facility, they love the warm atmosphere, the greetings by the volunteers when they come here, the friendly faces of our staff, many that have been here since the beginning, that truly make Yankee Trace an attractive and comfortable setting for the golfing public.
In 2000, City Council had the opportunity to expand the course.
The first 18 had done so well and had been so well received, we thought that having an extra 9 holes would really add to the use of the course. There were a lot of people who simply, because of time pressures, can't play 18 holes, and so 9 is perfect for them. A lot of the leagues and so on just like to play 9 holes as well. So we were really trying to expand the course to make it more useful for a broader segment of the population.
Golf course architect Gene Bates says he was pleased to come back to Yankee Trace to design the new 9, now called the Vintage Green.
You know, we were so honored to be called back to do the addition of the third 9 holes. And in our profession, you're only as good as what you did yesterday, but I guess what we did a few years prior to that stood the test, and the city honored us by having us make that addition to the golf course. And you know what, I'm very pleased with how it turned out. I believe it's added real value to the city in the way of additional rounds of golf or revenue, and that's what the goal was.
The design experience was enriching both personally and professionally for Gene Bates.
I enjoyed this project so much. Not only designing and building the golf course, but my relationship with everyone in the community, and the city council, Greg Horn, John Miller, and all the staff here, that I was about 1 inch away from signing a document to buy a home here in Centerville. And only because my wife was still employed with Delta Airlines at the time, we couldn't figure out a reasonable way to have her commute to Atlanta to fly her trips. If there had been a few years behind us relative to Delta Airlines, well then we would be living here today, and I'd be very proud of it.
Centerville Mayor Mark Kingseed says the golf club at Yankee Trace has made a huge impact on our community.
Well, I think it's been a huge benefit to the city. Again, we will have, when the entire project is built out, 700 or 800 additional homes in the city that, of course, would not have been in the city had this land not been annexed and had this project not gone forward. And in addition, I think the building of the course itself actually has been a catalyst for the development of this entire part of Washington Township. So I think there's been an enormously beneficial economic ripple effect to the city. But again, also, it's an amenity, it's a green space that's going to be preserved forever, and it's something that generations to come will still be able to enjoy. And quite honestly, all of us are very, very proud of that.
I think Yankee Trace has had a great impact on our community. Not only does it provide a wonderful recreation facility for the golfers in the community, but many of the houses have been built, and I think it provides a great place for people in the community to live and enjoy a different lifestyle. Oh, I think the best part is getting up in the morning and looking out the back windows and seeing the golf course and kind of feeling like you're on vacation.
It's hard to think that we didn't have Yankee Trace now that we've had it for 10 years, but I think just from a standpoint of the weddings that are held out here, the activities that we've had out here, I think back to when we had the Nike and then the Nationwide Open, and just it was a hub of activity for those periods of time, and we did charity work through it, but it's just such an integral part of our community, and just it's a meeting place when people talk about getting together. Yankee Trace is always one of those places that you talk about.
My one younger son, we used to come over here when it was being developed, and we would walk the course and walk part of the course. And out on hole number 5, which is a short par 4, I can remember being out there when they were having problem with the deer on the greens. The deer used to like the greens when they were just being seeded. So we were out there a couple times, didn't see them out there, but saw the damage. But my younger son particularly remembers coming down hole 18, that we used to walk down hole 18 when it was just being put in place, and he would drag his soccer ball and he would kick it from green 8, the tee at 18, all the way to the green at 18. And almost every time we come by here and he's in the car, he'll say, "Do you remember when we used to walk down 18 when the course was being developed?" And he was about 7 years old at that time. So that's a very fond memory and one that he remembers.
Well, I think it's a jewel for our community. The city fathers who saw this in the beginning had a vision, and I think the vision has come to fruition. And we should be very proud of the impact that Yankee Trace has had on Centerville and on the entire Montgomery County community.
Well, I'm not really much of a golfer. I have played it. I have attempted to play it, let's put it that way. I think the clubhouse is superior. I've been there for many, many group events, and the food service is always terrific, and I always enjoy being there.
The first Nike golf tournament. I was new to council within a year or two, and to see the phenomenal amount of volunteers from our community and from the region support the tournament and come out and work every day. Plus I had the opportunity of getting to help work in the hospitality tent, and I thought that was a real blast. I could see that why people have the love of the golf that they do and enjoy the golf course. And then the second special event that comes to mind is probably last year's Martin Luther King celebration put on by the Centerville Washington Township Diversity Council. And the thing that stands out in my mind about that was early in the morning, I guess it's about 7:30 in the morning, we had 4 or 5 students from Centerville High School portray different characters of history. We had Martin Luther King, we had Gandhi, we had Rosa Parks, and we had John F. Kennedy. And I felt like I was transported back in time. They made the history so living and so real. It was a lot of fun.
Whether it's residential, social, or recreational, Yankee Trace is the place to be.
We wanted a quality clubhouse that people would be proud of, that the people building around the course would use, that it would serve the community well. We had no place to have a volunteer salute, for example. We took those to Sycamore Creek Country Club and used their brunch, a Sunday morning brunch, to honor the volunteers. Sister City events were held at Sycamore or at the Holiday Inn over at the mall. So there was no place for us to really hold a city event. And so that was real important to us in building the clubhouse, that it serve everybody.
I was privileged to play in the first John Calaman Memorial Tournament. Matter of fact, my team won it. So yes, I do have a special memory about playing there.
Well, for me, from a personal standpoint, Yankee Trace has become the place where my family celebrates birthdays, Mother's Day, Easter, and my children just love to come out here and eat brunch at Yankee Trace. And again, I have those warm memories of family celebrations out here. I think I'll always remember the golf tournaments that we had. I had the pleasure of playing in some of the pro-ams, and that was just a great time. And then coming out here and watching these guys play the course, and just the level of play, just outstanding, and the course was such in great shape, and just hearing so many great things about Yankee Trace. I think that did a lot for our reputation, not just as a local facility, but really on a more a tri-state area and a national level. So those are things that come to my mind. And then as well, I've been to so many weddings and volunteer events out here that just a lot of fond memories, their retirement parties and such. So it's a big part of a lot of good memories for me.
My favorite memory about Yankee Trace is last year our daughter got married, and we used the clubhouse at Yankee Trace for the reception, and actually it was the only place she wanted to look at to have her wedding reception. She thought it was such a nice facility, and certainly we got a lot of nice comments about what a beautiful and gracious place it was to have a wedding reception or any kind of community or family activity that you want to have there.
Our mayor and council hope that everyone who visits Yankee Trace has an enjoyable experience.
I would like them to leave thinking that this is just a beautiful amenity. I'd like them to leave thinking this is just a gem, something that really has added to the enjoyment of everyone in the entire community. Because it is obviously a golf course, but only a segment of the population plays golf. But the restaurant is available to everyone. The housing and just the beauty of this place, I hope, is something that every citizen in the community can enjoy.
That concludes this special edition of Centerville Reports.
Thanks for joining us as we took a look back at Yankee Trace's past 10 years.